believe you are live.
Good morning, one and all, and welcome to a wonderfully brisk start to the Sunrise Safari. For those of you joining us for the first time, welcome. My name is Jamie Patterson. I have Bryan on camera with me this morning, and maybe the thumb is on board and maybe it isn't. You'll have to keep your eyes peeled. Might make a sneaky appearance at some point during the show. Andrew and James are out on foot, wandering about to see what wonders they can find at sort of the ground level. And I'm heading off in the direction of Sydney's Dam to see what I might find there. And of course, on a live safari, and we are live, you never know what you're going to expect or where the morning or the day or the afternoon or the evening is going to take you. If you're joining us for the first time, we are also interactive, so you can send through your questions and your comments, and you can do that on hashtag SafariLIVE on Twitter, or you can email through to questions@wildearth.tv. As I said, it is a brisk start to the morning, 22 degrees centigrade, which for us here in South Africa in midsummer means jacket time, believe it or not, even though that equates to roughly 71 degrees centigrade, which I can imagine for some of you might seem like a really kind of balmy morning. We're not quite adapted to the chillier climates that the bush occasionally presents us with. Now, why am I on my way up towards Sydney's Dam? A couple of reasons. One, the wild dogs were on Simbambili yesterday afternoon. I'm hoping they're going to decide to wander through into the top corner of Djuma. We are coming to you live from Djuma and Arathusa Game Reserves in the Sabi Sands, which is in the Greater Kruger National Area of South Africa, the top northeastern corner of the country, an untapped wilderness area of close to 4 million hectares of conservancy area, where the animals roam wild and free. I'm also going to Sydney's Dam because, as many of our regular viewers now know, we are experiencing something of a drought. By something, I mean a major drought. So that's one of the few areas where the animals can go to get some water, and it's turning out to be quite a prolific game viewing area. However, I know that John did send through an update about leopards calling on the Djuma Dam camera last night. And John, I will go and investigate that. It was quite early on in the evening, which is why I'm not racing off there straight away, because first of all, that leopard probably will have moved at some point during the night, but also the leopards like to walk this pathway up and down. It's something of an animal highway, so let's see what we can find there. Oh, and one more reason I'm going up this way. There was reports of a male leopard somewhere around the Triple M Road. We couldn't figure out where yesterday afternoon. We looked and looked, couldn't find any tracks. The report came through from one of the transfer drivers who was driving new guests in to one of the lodges. Sorry, just checking carefully for tracks. Well, I think one way or another we can almost guarantee an elephant sighting at some point today as well. There's elephant tracks all over this road. So when the light gets a little bit higher, we'll be able to stop and show you. Is it going to stay? It's a baby. Nope. Little daycare. Let me see if I can get your view. Sometimes these little antelope cooperate, and sometimes they really don't. Sorry, Bryan, putting you at an awkward angle there. Oh, there's some angry elephants somewhere in the distance. Not sure if you heard the trumpeting there, just as we stopped. That's a fairly young common or grey daker, one of our smallest antelope species. And that to me doesn't look like a fully grown one yet. Still got some growing up to do, but already out on its own. Probably still wandering about within the tiny little territory of its parents. And by tiny, I'm talking really only a couple of 100 meters squared between daycare territories. The elephants were calling somewhere towards the Balanites Junction. Might follow up there later. But first, it's time to go and see what wonders Sydney's Dam and the main access road have to offer. The other nice thing, of course, about this road is that it's beautiful for tracks. It's nice and soft and sandy. one thing the drought has provided us with, not of course that we would take that over rain, but it does make tracking a little bit easier because you can actually see the tracks that you're looking at. The other thing that I did notice early this morning was usually the quarantine is teeming with animals that spend the night. Quarantine, for those of you who don't know, is a big clearing right outside our camps where the staff live during the day and night. It's usually teeming with animals. This morning I didn't see any sign of them. I know that Brent had the Nkahuma Pride yesterday afternoon. They spent the entire afternoon, the entire day actually, sleeping around the Mulwati drainage line. So they could well have wandered through. I did check quarantine. I didn't spot any tracks. Now we play a guessing game as to where they've gone. Brent is also out, so he'll be letting us know if he finds anything exciting that we can show you. And it's always a huge temptation for me. It's always a difficult choice to make first thing in the morning, because I always enjoy spending time at the hyena den. We know that early in the morning is the best time to be there. However, I decided this morning, since we had such a wonderful sighting of the cubs out and playing yesterday, that it was time to go and look for other things. The sky has adopted, I'll just turn onto Sandy Patch to show you, the most glorious pink colour. Oh, just have a look at that. I feel as though perhaps I should be taking off my jacket and enjoying the coolness of the morning, because I have a feeling that temperatures are going to skyrocket this afternoon. We go and investigate the joys of Sydney's dam. I believe that Mr. James Henry, the wonderful Mr. James Henry, is up and about, and I think he would like to say good morning.
Good morning everybody, and welcome to the Sunrise Bushwalk. My name is James Henry, on security detail, Stefan Winterboer behind me, soon to become the Mystic Boer, and on camera today, Andrew Francis, stretched into the sky with an aerial on his back and a ridiculous hat on his head, which he's not going to show you. And the sun has just about peeped up over the eastern horizon, and our plan this morning is to head along this road, which is called Hyena Road. It's not much of a road, it's more of a track, and then we're going to head off to the east towards Buffelshoek Dam, hopefully arriving there in roughly the next 25 to 30 minutes, and with any luck we'll pick up tracks of the Nkahuma Pride, who was knocking about these parts yesterday. Then we're going to head off to the south along the Cheetah Cut Line, buy some Singapore noodles in the far east there, and head back to the vehicle for breakfast at 8:30. That is the general plan. Now, of course, in the bush, plans seldom work out the way we think they're going to, and that's the best part of living here. Anyway, that's the general idea. You are on a live walk, just like you're on a live drive with Jamie, and so please do talk to us. Hashtag SafariLIVE, questions at WildEarth.tv. Don't step in that thing there. Right, Mike, you're in Florida, and far from wanting to see the Nkahuma Pride, you want to see some spiders. Well, we hopefully will be in luck. We do have the Mystic Boer with us, and he, of course, is very good at finding small things like spiders. And so with any luck, we'll find some spiders for you, Mike. So that's the general plan. As I say, please do talk to us. It's lovely to hear from you, as Mike has done. Tell us what you want to see. It would be good to know. The first thing I would like to show you is the pinking horizon, which is now turning from pink, of course, to l'orange. I think quite possibly today is going to be another fairly blindingly hot day, and that is simply because there is no cloud in the offing. So what I also want to do is just be silent for the next 20 seconds and have a listen to what's going on. The things we're going to listen out for, and I'm afraid with the sound, the way it is on the bushwalk, you probably won't be able to hear a huge amount. But we're going to listen for any alarm calls that there might be. We're also going to listen for the birds and the dawn chorus, and then I will tell you about it. I shall relate it to you in my best possible English. Here we go. That was an alarm call from a spiral-horned antelope. I think probably a kudu. Either that or a nyala. Listen, they're barking. Woo! Woo! Let's go and see what they're barking at. Come. All right, so what we're going to do is follow up on these alarm calls. They will probably have seen a predator, so we're going to walk carefully, fairly quickly until we get quite close, and then we're going to walk carefully and just keep an eye out for the signs and tracks of the bush. I am probably not going to look at the camera too much at the moment, simply because we need to keep our eyes open for whatever might be through here causing alarm for the kudu or the nyala. What do you think? Should we go through here? Yeah. Did you see one? Okay. So Stef saw 3 kudu running across the road here. So do you think we're looking in there? Okay. We might hand you across to Jamie at some stage, just so that we can take a bit of time to find what's going on, but stay with us, I think, for now. Andrew, stop coughing, man. Okay. Calling in here. There's the kudu. I can see the kudu through there. They're alarm calling still. Okay, we're going to be very quiet now, everybody. Let's walk.
And there they go. Hey, how brilliant is this? Good morning, wild dogs. No, don't go that way, come back. Come back this way. Racing after the impala. It's just the one that I can see. I did see a second go shooting off. Wow, look at that. That speed is phenomenal. Straight across into Bushwalk. There's the second one that I saw. The monkey's going crazy. Come on, wild dogs. Come back this way. How's that for the start to the morning? Yes, they're going to come back this way. Come on. Come on, puppies. Now, this is as far as I know, it was the investic pack that was around Simbambili. How's that for predicting the way a morning's going to go? Awesome. Let me just call this in so I can get some help. Stations, I've got Madach at Sydney's Dam. Hey. Look at that. That's speed and stamina.
Do you need a hand just to come west?
Quite possibly. They're going south again towards Candace's house. Let's go. Woohoo! Oh no! Let's start the car first. Can't roll all the way. We're getting Brent in to help us keep up. There's one still that way. Where's the rest of the pack? Monkeys shouting. Hey, there's my Donald Duck impression. I'm that excited, I'm breaking it out. What an awesome way to start off the morning. Wild dogs on the hunt. Now we just have to stay with them. Where did you little tricky things go? There we go. Now this pack is split up during the hunt. Hopefully, if we're really lucky, we might even get to see them do that incredible contact call of theirs. Did you see the way that the impala dashed forward, doing that incredible pronking or stotting, dancing up, arching their backs as a way of saying to the wild dogs, hey, don't attack me, I'm too fit and healthy. There's a waterbuck standing watching the goings-on. my goodness. We got some, yeah. Here we go, there's the other one. Already caught up with us and we were driving incredibly fast. There's the rest of the pack. There we go. Oh, look, the waterbuck's going to chase it. Awesome. Okay, you good, B-Dog? Everybody duck, watch it. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All dashing about in front of us. This is where wild dogs keep us guessing in terms of where they're going to go next. Good morning. Hello, thank you for cooperating so nicely. Sorry, I was wrong. Unless the investic pups have grown tremendously, this looks as though it's the Sands pack. What an awesome way to start us off.
Just track from a single line just on the cut.
So exciting. Yep, this, oh, mind you, let me hold off on identifying which pack this is. These pups have got so big.
Comes from,
so the investic pack is 3 adults and 11 pups. The Sands pack is slightly larger in number. They number about 15 or 16, but they've lost a couple of pups along the way, which is always a risk with wild dogs.
Sorry.
But lucky for us, they're lying down a bit, so let's reposition so we can get a nice view of them. Try and get a good count. So, for those of you joining us for the first time, why am I so excited about this particular wild dog sighting? And the answer to that is you are looking at Africa's most endangered predator. We're fortunate enough to be in an area where this is one of the only sustainable population. Safari Dean has said this is the crazy typical Jamie and wild dog luck, and it has seemed to work out that way. As soon as I talk about them, I seem to talk them into coming across. Not quite sure how that works, but I'm not going to be complaining in any way, shape or form. What an exciting way to start the morning. Just bear with me one moment. I'm going to let Brent know where we are. Brent, they've just gone flat around the quarry, just to the south of Mike and Candace's house.
Robbie, I'm still going to make my way there. I'm just going to see what these line tracks go first.
Copy. Oh, exhausted now after that long chase. So where was I? Yes, one of the only sustainable populations within South Africa. We've got less than 500 in the country. There's less than 4,000 in the world. And within the park itself, the area that we're in, they're very highly monitored. And there's between about 194 to 197 dogs. And you're looking at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 of them that I can see for now. Sorry, 10. The most fluid example of a pack predator. They work together in the most amazing, almost poetic-like motion. Those skinny bodies built for stamina and speed. And unlike the lions and the leopards of the Sabi Sands that are ambush predators, these guys are built purely on stamina, and they will chase down and catch their prey just by sheer exhaustion. They don't have any sort of subtle technique to sneaking up on prey. They just run through the bush, and as soon as something starts to run away from them, they're straight off after it. Now, there's always this rumor that, or this theory, that basically some wild dogs would hang back and then replace the chasers whenever they got tired. That's not actually how they work. It's just because when they're in big packs like this, the prey sort of ducks and dives and jinks and jolts, changing direction. And that allows the wild dogs to to change direction when they spread out like that. Oh, I'm so excited. Well, they're just taking a brief breather. There's no full bellies here, so they're still going to be heighting. And they're up. They're seeing. It does look to me like the resting pack. Whoops. Wild dog clash. This is 2 packs. Oh, no, maybe not. Might just be greeting the adults. There's chaos here. They seem to be chasing each other. It's not the typical standard wild dog greeting. I wonder if we haven't got the stands pack and the investing pack meeting up here. Everybody hold on to your seats. Drainage line. Just stop to listen for a second. Go off in that direction. That to me looked like too many dogs for just one pack, and the reaction was to chase after each other. Sorry guys, got to concentrate now to try and find these dogs again. Let's just see if we can find them around this corner. Through here. Concentrate and just figure out where these wild dogs have gone. They've shot into the drainage line, and while I do that, I'm going to send you across to James. We'll catch up with you shortly.
3. Right. What a fantastic thing for you to have seen. I'm sad that those dogs have gone. I'm also equally sad that they're not here with us. But we've come through this block. The kudu we saw, 2 cows, went running off that way. I think there were 3 initially. But we can't find any sign of what they might have been shouting at. Andrew, what are you doing, man? Sorry, Andrew's just moving his aerial out from under a tree. Oh, you settled. Right. We're now just looking in the area where they were. We found them running through here, and they did a very interesting kind of stotting motion, just like an impala does when it's being chased by wild dogs. Stef thinks maybe they were alarm calling at us. I think that's quite possible, perhaps at Andrew's aerial. If some animals will follow a predator, and a buffalo is a very good example of something like that. Even an impala, if they've seen a leopard, will follow it and make sure that they know where it's going. I don't think that that's what those kudu were doing, because they were running towards that area. They were definitely running away from us by the time we came through to where we are now. If there is a predator, it's gone down through the drainage line through here, so that's what we're going to do. We're going to follow it. It is heading towards Bushwalk Dam if there is something going through here. It is impossible to see tracks now because the ground is very hard. You can see here, I'll just prod it with my stick. I mean, if you've got soft pads on the bottom of your feet, like a lion or a leopard, you're not going to leave any mark at all as you go through here. So that's the update from here. Very, very exciting that you had the dogs. Very jealous. Andrew, pick your feet up. Hello, Austin. While we're looking around for signs of potential predators, you want to know if I have my own bird list. Austin, I initially started keeping a bird list when I began to work in the bush, but I quickly became much more interested in the actual biology of birds rather than the number of birds I've seen. That's not a criticism of anybody who keeps a bird list. It's just more what I'm interested in. So what I mean by that is I'm more interested in how they fly, and why they nest, and why they have feathers and that sort of thing. I'm very interested in different kinds of birds, of course, but I don't keep a list myself. And I know many people in the bush do keep a list. I'm just not one. Please don't stop keeping your list, though. Andrew, do you keep a bird list?
Semi.
Andrew keeps a semi-bird list. That, of course, is completely nonsensical. Just hearing what sounded like a grey hornbill calling there. Sounded a little alarmed. In fact, on second thought, sound bank of my memory, I think that it was probably a birch or starling. There's a grey hornbill calling. Plain. Our signal is not great. Relatively quickly down through this shallow drainage line, see if we can get onto the western facing slope, which seems to be much more preferable to the signal. So this is the kind of game path that if a pride of or predator was coming through here, this is the kind of game path that they would probably take. But I don't see any tracks on it. You can see it's looked after by some harvester termites. That's where the harvester termites would be. And that's the dung. Not fresh. Imminently. Great game of South Africa, which basically means dung spitting. We're not renowned for our invention of great sports games here in South Africa. The other sort of export, or sport we tried to export at one stage, was something called yukske, which, as far as I understand it, is 6 at other. Unsurprisingly, has not taken off as an international sport. Bryan, at least Andrew, let's just pop across here. It's quite looks like quite a nice view over the top of the drainage line. We'll scan the surrounds. Sand is much softer here, so we would probably see lion tracks. Someone with my eyes could easily miss leopard tracks here, but I wouldn't miss a pride of lions walking through an area like this. Now, what you should do when you get up to a place like this is take a deep breath in. Breathe out and just love the smell of the morning and the freshness before the onset of the blinding heat. Now, Ben, Leavesburg, you want to know how much the drought is affecting the water table. Well, profoundly. Water table will definitely have dropped. Our boreholes are drying up, and what that means is that we can only now shower once every 3 weeks or so, because there's not a lot of water in the borehole and we're struggling to get water out of it. I'm being slightly facetious. We don't shower every 2 weeks. Well, some of us do, but that's not because we have to. But certainly the borehole is running dry, and yeah, that's because the water table is dropping, and that's because of the drought. And Stef was just saying to me yesterday, he went to Kruger with his son the other day, and around Skukuza. So basically, if I draw you a quick map of the Lowveld, the mountains are over here. The mountains are here. Sorry, Andy, you just tell me if I'm being totally invisible. And we're in a little position here called the Sabi Sands, of course. And this is not to scale. And Stef was at a place here called Skukuza, which is the capital of the Kruger National Park. It's actually, I think, an official town of South Africa. But the further you get from the mountains over here to the eastern side of the Kruger, the rain decreases exponentially. So while everywhere has had far less rain than normal, the area around Skukuza here has had even less than us over here. And Stef says up to 20 kilometers away from the rivers, there is no grass and no leaves on any of the trees. He said it is absolutely astonishing to see. So the drought is having a real effect. And I know because we're human beings, we're able to dig holes and suck water out of the ground. Well, for now we can do that. How long that will last, I don't know. Like I say, those boreholes are getting dry. But for the animals, this is going to be a very interesting and difficult. I say interesting because for the predators it's not a bad thing. They're having quite a good time of it. For the water-dependent species like hippo and warthog, that's going to be very difficult. For the migratory species like wildebeest, which can run a long way. What else can run a long way? Some of the sable and roan antelope, hartebeest, they can move quite big distances, whereas impala and zebra, or zebra can but don't. Impala, which tend to make up the huge numbers of antelope species in the Kruger Park, I think that their numbers are going to suffer. And maybe that means that some of the other slightly more unusual antelope that can move distances will do better. But eventually, they too will succumb to the drought if there is no water. Now, the other interesting thing about that, of course, is as the drought, even if we get rain after the 1st of March, or even possibly even before, the growth season for the grass is over. So while we might get a green fruit, the seeds are not going to germinate. They're certainly not going to germinate and produce great, good grazing grass. Even if we get rain from the beginning of March, even now, the next little while until the next sort of springtime, the grazing is going to be low, even if we get good rain now. So I think a fascinating next few months. I'm trying to stay away from saying things like a bad few months or a nasty few months. I think it's going to be interesting to see what happens. Of course, it's going to be tough for some animals, but for others, it will be. Let's cross Jenny, find out what she's up to. We're far from Bushwalk, and I will see you shortly.
Wow, well, after that incredibly rapid wake-up call from the wild dogs, I can't find them. They have completely vanished somewhere into this really dense vegetation, somewhere around the drainage line. Brent is here as well, helping me to follow up. And it's all happening here this morning. Apparently there's alarm calls around the final control room, which is also, I mean, it's not impossible that they got there by now. The wild dogs move so rapidly. The only thing is I haven't found any tracks coming around. But I'm almost certain, in fact I am certain, because Brent found tracks coming in from Torchwood, and I found tracks coming in from Simbabili, that is what happened. It was a clash between the Sands and the Investec. Oops, you better watch where I'm going. I nearly went into a ditch there. Oh, sorry. At this point, I'm going to make my way across to Sydney's Dam and just switch off and listen. You heard all of those squeaking sounds that they were making. So what happens, of course, is the next step. The next question we have to ask ourselves, what happens when two wild dog packs meet like they did? Now, from what I know, and this is the first time I've ever seen it happen in person, from what I know, it's generally not all that aggressive. They might growl at each other, they might nip at each other. And then generally one pack will go off one way, one pack will go off the other. It doesn't seem as though they've come through here yet. Let's just stop and listen for a moment. You'd think that you'd still hear them vocalizing, yipping at each other. they have performed the most phenomenal disappearing act. Nothing. Silence from all fronts. It's amazing how also when a wild dog pack comes through, how the general game goes poof, and just absolutely vanishes. You can understand why. You saw the way that they were racing after those impala, and that even wasn't really a serious hunting effort. Okie dokie, where to next, everybody? Where do we think these wild dogs are going to disappear to? Those long, lean legs, their ability to eat up miles first thing in the morning, actually almost beggars belief. Where have you gone, doggies? Going back towards where we lost them. Brent is now in the area as well. He's checking along Access Road and around Sandy Patch. I haven't seen their tracks coming out, which is a positive thing. It means that we still have a good chance that they're around here somewhere. Check around this area. I mentioned that the Sands pack has lost individual members of the pack. I'm not sure exactly what the mix is between pups and adults, but they're definitely missing individuals. And Carol, Chrissy, you were wondering what would kill a wild dog? And the answer is their biggest threat is lions, after man, of course, although luckily for us in our beautifully protected area, that is not really a risk. So the biggest killer would be, in terms of actual physical acts from another animal, would be a lion. After that, hyenas and wild dogs sort of vie for a top position within the predator hierarchy. So it depends very much, with them it's a numbers game. Who has more wild dogs, or who has more pack members or clan members. Biggest killer, apart from those factors, for wild dogs is disease. So they can catch things like canine distemper and rabies, and occasionally it does pass on through from domestic animals. It's a naturally occurring disease, but it does get passed through from domestic animals into wild dog packs. And there's a very sad case of the pack around Hoedspruit that the entire pack, because they're so sociable, the entire pack fell victim to rabies. Just stop here, get hold of Brent. Standing by.
Hey, I've got tracks of a few crossing Triple M back into Simbambili, but not that many.
Copy, I'm just standing by where I last had visual, just trying to listen. You can see what I mean, though, by how dense the vegetation is around this drainage line. Very tricky for us to get a vehicle in, particularly at the speed at which wild dogs tend to lead us in. So Brent's update there was that he's got tracks of a couple of them crossing Triple M boundary into Simbambili, but not all of them. Sure. Chaos and pandemonium on this beautiful morning. Total silence. All right, if Brent's got those tracks there, that means most likely that at some point either the rest of the pack is going to go that way or those individuals are going to come back. And why is that running? Impala racing through. Let's go find out. It's not racing for its life, but it is running away as though it's been disturbed by something. Come on, wild dogs, where did you go? have used up my wild dog luck too quickly this morning. Luckily, although we've got very, very dense block, it's one that the elephants love, and they very conveniently made lovely paths for us to travel down. Something made it run. We're almost at the access road, which would be about right if wild dogs were running together to meet up. Come on, everybody, keep your eyes peeled. Let's see if you can spot them before I do. Tracks came. Sorry, bear with me. See, these tracks run up this road, but that could be from this morning as well. Let's do a quick loop. Get the car out of low range, and let's turn around and go back. While I race around in search of the wild dogs, James has found one of their favorite foods. Let's have a look.
3. As you come to us, everybody, we are just looking through the bush there at a nyala bull. Now, we found some leopard tracks. While you look at that nyala, I'll tell you what's happened. And now you're unfortunately looking at me. While we were walking along the road here, we had some leopard tracks, a female leopard. This is sort of Karula's territory, could be her, certainly very purposefully walking in this direction. There's a female nyala there too. I don't think they're that fresh. I think that they're from yesterday. Certainly, oh, sorry, let's go back to the wild dogs.
I got him. They came out where I went off. Now they're going straight back in again. No wild dogs, come back here. Oh, everybody duck. Here they go, trotting off that way. Oh, goodness. This is exactly my path that I just drove. You sneaky puppies. Here they go, back into the drainage line. At least they're going at a slightly slower pace. Oh, and I can smell them now, that wonderful smell of wet dog. Going east into the drainage line. And this is where it gets very tricky. I can't follow them in here. Which way are they going to go? Duck my head out of the way. What happened there, wild dogs? I don't even begin to know which pack this is at this point. All right, we're going to have to cut around this drainage line. I can't get through it. We're all going to have to duck again. Do our wild, mad off-roading. Brent's last direction was southeast across that drainage line. I can't follow them that way. I'm going to go around to the sandy patch. Wow, they're keeping us moving this morning, as wild dogs do. They might be searching for the rest of the pack, depending on which tracks cross Triple M. Difficult for us to predict. I wonder which way is going to be better for us. I've changed my mind. I think I'm going to go onto main access road first. Maybe not. How was that? They popped out exactly where I'd just driven. As I was doing a U-turn, they popped out. Wild dogs make all of us work extra hard for their sighting. Between the presenter and the poor cameraman who's got to hang on to the back, direct the camera and move the aerial and duck the branches. And then, of course, the vehicles. Hey, Jigger. Where'd you go? And back around again. It's like being stuck in one of those time warps that I was stuck in before. Now we look around and look, of course, the first thing we look for, and keep your eyes peeled because you could well spot them before I do. Oh, hello. Morning. Yeah, please. I think in that case I'll take, might take access. I don't know, they keep doing this.
And 2-pack.
I think so. It was so quick.
Okay,
Yeah.
well, anyway, quick.
Bye. Yeah, okay, bye. Right, so keep your eyes peeled as Brent races off down that way, I race off this way. There's no point in both of us going down the same road. Oh! Bumpy. Yes, so keep your eyes peeled for the flash of white that is the tip of their tail. And Sharon, you were wondering, do all wild dogs have white tips to their tails? Or are there certain colour variations? And the only colour variation I've ever seen, Sharon, and unfortunately the little pup didn't survive, was a member of the Sands pack that had a black tail tip. It's something I've only ever seen once. I'm sure it has happened in the past, but most commonly, yes. 99% of your wild dogs will have white tips to their tail to some degree or another. Racing around on Rusty. Got him. Brian's just pointing them out. I haven't seen them yet. Oh, there we go. Bryan, you're a genius. Brent, I've got them here again. On the road to Candace's house. Puppies. Good morning. Have you mislaid the rest of your pack? Come on. Call for us. Oh my goodness. And it's totally worth the views that we get to see of these magnificent animals. The greatest athletes that the bush has to offer. And they always make me feel slightly unfit whenever I see them. And in the morning sun, there is nothing more glorious than the sight and the smell of a wild dog pack. All staring off into the distance. Oh, and back again we go. Back where we started the morning. Almost exactly where they were lying down before. They're trying to relocate each other. I have no idea if there's more than one pack still around or which pack we're looking at. They are unsettled. To choose to go, you're not?
What are you
going to keep me running and guessing?
Not a drive. We'll be in 5.
Back onto that path. Sounds as though they found the Nkahunga lionesses on Torchwood, by the way, just for those of you who were wondering. It's all happening this morning. And straight back to where we first had them. I think they're trying to catch up with the rest of the pack that's gone across the Simbambili, unless, of course, it was from a different pack.
No. Because it'd be busy.
Oh, I love that smell. It's such an awesome smell. As a smell that might be in a different context, but out here is nothing better than that scent. Wayne, you were wondering what they smell like? Wet, dirty dog is probably my best description of them. Oh goodness, here we go again. Oopsie. Sorry, it's okay, finish your business. It's okay. Brent's keeping track of the rest of them. Are you gonna roll in it? Nope, not today. And Wayne, they're not the cleanliest of creatures. They like to roll in all kinds of things, including each other's scat. Once or twice in order to locate wild dogs before. Oh, they're crossing, they're crossing, they're crossing. Oh, oopsie daisy. Sorry, Christopher, I'll be with you now. Otherwise we're going to miss them. Which is an area that we can't drive in. Or are they? Which way is this sighting going to take us? To the right is Simbambili, to the left is Juma. Guests of the Simbambili vehicle enjoying every moment. And just so that you guys know, because I know it always looks terrible, the trees that we drive over, first of all, we pick the ones that will spring back up and are invader species. So we're very, very careful of the way that we drive. Look how cool this is. Are we going to go left? Are we going to go right? Which way are the pack going to go? A mad sprint down the road. Racing each other around. Full of joy and merriment.
Yeah, we see one and the other one.
Look at them skipping about.
They look like both of them again.
Oopsie. Speed wobble. Face planting in the dirt. Bryan and myself coated in dust from our mad rush around. Describing something. Oh yes, but that can wait. I'll get back to the question about animals you can track by smell, I promise. Christopher? Morning, morning. In 2 packs. The other one went to Bushwalk. just making sure that we don't block the view of the other vehicles. Is there a more amazing sight? If they keep going south, guys, they could well cut onto Arathusa rather than Simbambili. Look at their white tails waggling. Perfect little markers in the bush. What an awesome shot. At some point, we are going to have to pull out, and the reason behind that is we're now on a main access road. There's 3 vehicles with them. At some point that could change. Sorry guys, we'll get ahead in a moment. But yes, there are other vehicles that will want to make their way onto the sighting. Obviously we have, for new viewers, we have a restriction as to how many vehicles can be included in a sighting. It's generally 3, sometimes 2 or 1, depending on the circumstances, with wild dogs on the main access road, which is basically like anybody can drive along a main access road, so any of the lodges can come and view them. And it's just entirely fair that since we've had an amazing morning with them, it's entirely fair that we give the other vehicles a chance to come in and have a look. As it happens though, they look as though they're crossing into Simbambili. Oh, all back out again. Bryan doing an amazing job of keeping a view for you as we have to keep moving. They're all going to roll. Oh, they're going to have a sniff and roll in that. This, I think, is the Sands pack, guys, but I'm not entirely certain. The pups have now got to the age where they're almost the size of the adults. Oh, having a good sniff around there. Where's that male with the torn ear? Then we'll be able to tell. What an amazing morning. Emerging happily reunited after their encounter, and trotting off down the road. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Still missing, either way, whichever pack this is, we're still missing wild dogs, but it could be the ones that Brent had tracks of crossing. What an awesome shot. Oh, 12. Probably in best stick. Of the road, or the rumble bumps, but unavoidable on this particular road. Okay guys, they're going into one-eyed pan on Simbambili. Let me try and get you one last view. There they go. Dashing off to find some water, I would suspect. And as our wild dogs disappear off, put your hiking boots on and head off on a walk with James.
Blinking. What a spectacular time of it you've had this morning. I'm extremely jealous, not as jealous as Andrew, of course, who's been walking around Bushwalk Dam where we're standing here, sulking like a small child who's been after some sweets and not been given them. I have had to set to him with my stick. He is, well, I mean, he's a little bit more cooperative now, but he's certainly no happier. There is a wolf spider down here carrying an egg sac. Now, Andrew, if I could befall on you to perhaps film this. It's here. Confirm, no signal. We are still live. Everybody, we're still live. Sorry about that. Now, Andrew, would you mind staying upright? I know that it's very difficult. If you lean over again, you might find yourself prone in this dam for the rest of the day. Now, where was the spider you found? You found a fascinating little spider around here, somewhere. Anyway, I will keep looking for it. We're all very distracted, you see. Now look around here. We're in the bottom of Bushwalk Dam, and all the time while we're standing where we are, what I will do is take my microphone and put it to where we're standing, and you'll get the impression of the gas, quite warm, methane smelling gas that's coming out of the mud. Listen to this. There you are. You can hear that there is air and mud escaping from underneath here, and that's because there's a huge amount of moisture still underneath. There's also quite a lot of organic matter that is rotting underneath here. There will be some fish bones, there'll be lots of dung from the hippos and buffalo and elephant that have been in here, and also some of the vegetation that was sitting sort of in the soup above Bushwalk Dam before it dried completely. Then there is this greenery, and most of it I think is probably inedible. It is pioneer weed vegetation. I'm not sure, in fact, what any of it, except this one here, is called. This is called a purple panweed, and it's very aromatic. It's got really nice scent to it, and there are lots of butterflies flying about in it. Look at the butterflies. Beautiful. Lots of tiny little butterflies. Possibly browns or blues of some kind, and they'll be feeding on the nectar from the purple pan weed. That's lovely. Very peaceful here, and there are two more things I want to show you. Well done, Andrew. Very delightful. Compliments from Final Control. You seem to be redeeming yourself. Let's go just over here and have a quick look. There's some holes. Ooh, this is where we rescued the nyala, Andrew and I, on Christmas Day. Not nyala, it was an impala. Whoa! So there's still quite a lot of moisture under here. And there's Andrew's giant boot sinking into the mud. And here is where an elephant stuck its foot. And you can see in here, he must have nearly got stuck, I would have imagined. But you can see how deep it is, and there is still some fresh water underneath there. But a few days ago, these elephant footprints were filled with little bits of very clear water. At the moment, that seems to have all dried out. So things just can continue to get dry. The other thing I want to show you, we have seen almost none of this season. Over there's a foam nest frog's nest. So let's go and have a look there. And the foam nest frog, also known as the grey tree frog, is an interesting frog because it makes that foam nest, the female makes it, above water normally. She can, of course this year that's not possible. And she secretes a pheromone of some kind which attracts lots of male frogs to her, and they have a sort of orgy, if you like, and during the course of that and the melee that ensues, that foam is produced. Is that a foam nest frog, or is it a piece of litter? Oh dear, I'm starting to lose faith in my eyes. It's not a foam nest frog. Oh, it's a tortoise. It's a tortoise carapace. It's a terrapin carapace. That's fascinating. Okay, I will continue my frog story just now, but this isn't of course, a frog's nest at all. It is a terrapin carapace and plastrons, the whole shell. I suspect it was dragged here by a predator and eaten out. I can't actually reach in there because this is a Sisyphus. Oh, let's piece this thing together. This is going to be very interesting. All right, there we go. We'll just get the pieces out and we'll try and put it together again and discover what kind of a terrapin it was. This is not from the textbook of archaeological exploration. Right, so there is the underside of the terrapin. You can see it's very, very flat in comparison with the tortoise. A tortoise would have much more sort of undulation on it. I suspect that's because it has to swim. And I think you'll find that this was a serrated hinged. Well, this is actually like a little midden. No, there's its skull. There's its skull. You see that, Andrew? I'll pick him up. I could probably just do it with my hands.
That's it, you will.
Can you? So there's the skull of the terrapin. That is amazing. And probably, like I say, a serrated hinged terrapin. They're the ones that like to live in large bodies of water like this here. Now there will be other serrated hinged terrapins that have found themselves bits of mud to live under to get through the difficulty of the drought. But this one obviously was found, I suspect, by a predator and then eaten out underneath the safety of this Ziziphus tree. I don't know what would have eaten it though. They're very smelly, they've got very powerful secretions to try. There we go, okay, he's okay. Isn't that just amazing? So maybe a honey badger or something like that pulled it in there and ate it there, and then the ants would have cleaned it out. But that is just fantastic to see. Here's the top. I just want to show you a little piece of the top there. And there on the top you can see also not the same kind of scoots that a tortoise has, not those hexagonal scoots, and definitely far thinner than a tortoise shell, and also much less rounded, much flatter. Right, that was the serrated hinged terrapin. We're going to keep walking now towards the east and then down towards the south. And while we're doing that, Jamie has got some more magnificent things to show you. Not the dogs, but something else. We'll see you shortly. Bye-bye.
After the frenetic pace that the wild dog set this morning and then dashed off into Simbambili, Brent is still trying to follow up to find the other pack that wandered through. But it's nice to just enjoy a peaceful elephant sighting, including this little boy, who's currently being thoroughly camera shy, but a little bit earlier gave us the scariest mock charge. Rushing out into the road, ears shaking, trunk swinging. I love it when they do that. They're basically playful and trying to determine exactly where their boundaries are. It's one of my favorite things. Mom just flat out ignored him. Wasn't even vaguely interested in his approach to the vehicle. Hey, little one, you naughty. It's always generally the little boys that do it. This youngster's probably about, I don't know, probably about 2.5-ish. Hasn't got his tusks yet, so maybe a bit younger, maybe 2. Got a beautiful hole in his left ear. Oh, please excuse me if there's some sniffing and sneezing and wiping of eyes. Both Bryan and myself have been thoroughly dusted this morning. Hello, yes you. You are so full of attitude. And Triple M once again proving to be the current elephant capital of the Northern Sabi Sands. Seems as though every time we come down this road we encounter an elephant herd. There's even an eddy right down in front of us. It seems as though everywhere I look there's elephants wandering about. It's awesome. Oh my goodness. I'm definitely going to have to sneeze at some point. It's sort of stuck. Let's see if we can reposition to get a nice view of the rest of this herd. Oh, my eyes. Debbie, while we reposition, although I think she's going to move a little little bit. Let's just stop here for one moment. Let's see how and where the baby decides to go. Debbie wanted to know, what is this terrain called? Would it be Serengeti grass, for example, something like a description like Serengeti grassland? And I think the best description that I could give you is probably in this particular part, mixed bush willow woodland. Now, that's generally the dominant tree species, is the bush willow. Anything from the red bush willow to the russet bush willow that the elephants are currently loving. So you definitely, if not bush willow woodland, you would definitely call it in certain areas closed woodland, in other areas open woodland. Oh, and these are definitely the elephants that we heard earlier this morning, trumpeting at the cars that dared to trespass. We're going to have to, the thing is about this road, it is a main road, and I'm going to have to pull off the road for a moment in order to allow a vehicle to go past. Which is a pity because this baby's looking stunning in the morning light. However, I know that these vehicles have airport transfers to do, so we can't leave them waiting. I'm just going to pull off the road quickly. I'm completely on the same page as you are. I also needed these elephants to chill me out after the chaos of that wild dog sighting. And nothing, it's difficult because nothing is more exciting than following a hunting wild dog pack, or in this case, that incredible interaction that we briefly witnessed. But nothing puts me in a better mood than sitting with an elephant herd, especially when they have youngsters with them and when they're so beautifully relaxed, munching away. You can see they're still, even at this age, this youngster's still not as coordinated as the adults in terms of using his trunk. Doesn't quite get the trunkfuls of food that his mom might. Now this little youngster probably weighs in the region of, I would say, about 250 odd kilograms, maybe a bit more, 300 kilograms, which compared to when it was born at just under 100. So 250 kilograms is about 500 pounds. It was born at just under 200 pounds. And Curtis wanted to know how much weight they put on each year. And the answer to that, Curtis, is they probably more than double their weight in the first few years, but that sort of plateaus in a way. So you're wondering each year until they grow. The first year of growth is probably the most prolific, and so that's when they more than double. And then after that, it slowly gets less and less each year until they reach their full weight. So they've got to go in the space of, I would say, the space of about 12 years. An elephant's going to go from about 100 kilograms or 200 pounds to up to, if it's a female, and a young female at sort of sexual maturity probably weighs in the region of 2 tons. So that's 4,000 pounds. There's plenty of growing that has to happen. And then, of course, elephants don't stop growing throughout their lives. They get bigger and bigger. It definitely slows down the older they get. But particularly with male elephants, they grow to massive sizes. So they can go to the end, at the end of their lifespan at about 50 to 60 years. An elephant bull can weigh up to about, I would say, close to, I wonder, this other vehicle's just, oh, he's looking at the elephants. Sorry, I saw an impala dashing past and I wondered if it was not the wild dogs coming back out to join us again. Now that's always an entertaining interaction. Elephants and wild dogs, that's absolute chaos. And elephants do not appreciate wild dogs wandering through.
Break.
Sure, definitely a nice, peaceful, relaxing way to continue with our morning. Now, I think what I would like to do is move forward a bit. It gets us out of everybody's way. And allows us a nice clear view of the cow that's further down the road. Now, to maintain those enormous sizes that we were talking about in answer to Curtis's question, their elephant has to pretty much eat constantly. As you can imagine, you need an enormous amount of food, and for a large elephant, I'm talking about 300 kilograms of food a day. 150 of that is excreted in the form of dung, so not the most efficient digestive system. They digest about, or they make use of about half of what they eat. And Kat, you were wondering, what is the sort of the time spent eating versus the time spent sleeping for elephants? The youngsters, the little ones, will sleep for much longer. They often have hour-long naps at a time where they lie down and the herd forms a nice protective circle around them. Another vehicle coming through. Sorry guys, I just want to give these Ellies plenty of space while the other vehicle crosses, not to stress them. Mum's looking perfectly relaxed though. Although judging by her size, she's been through all of this before. Stop here for the moment. Little babies. So as I was saying, the little babies like to spend time feeding and then resting in sort of equal amounts. They don't, because they've got access to mom's milk, which is much easier to digest, they don't need to feed for as often. That's our snared trunk female and her new little baby. Awesome. I'm so glad we get to see these guys and her new little one. Still a bit wobbly. Whoopsie. Ooh, careful, careful. Slowly. I don't want to speed wobble off the road. I have a soft spot for this particular cow. With her trunk that's missing its tip. I always think that she's a little bit special, but that still brings me to finishing up the answer to the question in terms of an adult elephant. Now, she actually takes a little bit longer to feed. She struggles a little bit with that shortened trunk. Just has to spend a bit more time eating. But in terms of how long an elephant feeds versus nap, it's probably about 20 hours to 4 hours napping. And they don't sleep 4 hours straight. It will be little odd 20-minute intervals. And then what they'll do is adult elephants can lie down. They can go and rest against trees. Sometimes they go and they sleep with their foreheads against a tree like that, which is absolutely awesome to see. And they are out, completely fast asleep. Now, elephants have disappeared off into the bush. I want to go and follow up on the alarm calls that were around final control, since we're just having one of those incredible mornings. While I do that, let's head back across to James and find out what he's up to.
Well, speaking of alarm calls, everybody, there is a squirrel and it is doing precisely the same thing. It is alarm calling. What it's alarm calling at, I'm not sure. It was looking down and it is very upset. It was looking down to the right of your picture. And there's another thing alarm calling there. There's a chagra in there also alarm calling. I think that there's something in here. Let's walk slowly through here. It could be a snake. I don't think it's going to be a bird of prey, simply because the squirrel is not looking up. And there's another bird in here going zzz, zzz. It's looking right down here. Come, let's go look. very upset. It's gone. There's lots of dry twigs around here. Places for small predators to hide. There's also a termite mound, which is definitely indicative that there could be a snake in here. Andrew, just point the camera through there. We can see the squirrels looking straight into the termite mound. See that? This is amazing. And I don't think you can hear it, but there's a bird above going zzz, zzz. I suspect very strongly that a snake has gone into this termite mound. A mamba or a cobra, perhaps. Fascinating. It's just, we're going to circle around. I don't want to go and prod about amongst the sticks there unless I can see precisely what we're going to be prodding. I just want to be prodding things unless one knows what is going on. The squirrel is still looking down at the tree. Now, a snake would be almost invisible here. We're so close to the squirrel. Normally these squirrels will back off and run away long before you get anywhere near this close to them. I'm going to take one step closer. Now, if there is a snake here, it will almost certainly move away if it thinks I've spotted it. Oh, it's looking right down at the ground there. And let's try the other side. I can't see anything through there. I mean, that squirrel is looking right at the base of the termite mound here. Okay, let's go. So much Ziziphus here. Okay, come. Let's quickly walk through here. I'm just going to move the trees out of the way for Andrew. Well done, Andrew. Right, here we go. Okay. All right, now we're right close up. This is the tree here where the squirrel is. It was looking right down at the base here. Watch your head here, Andrew. And there's a hole.
The day is blazing hot.
And the other passenger,
Sorry guys, just talking to Craig at the same time. Unfortunately we lost James ever so briefly there. But we will, let me just finish off my conversation with Craig and I'll be right with you. I'm not sure, I think they might have gone into Bushwalk. I don't know if they continued on into Manuleti from there. I'm still checking, I know Brent was still checking around the area.
Thank you.
We're just discussing, Brian and myself, if it was definitely two packs, and we've come to the conclusion it definitely was. There were just too many wild dogs there for it to have been one pack. As to where that other pack went, I honestly have no idea. I think it was the Sands pack that went off onto Simbabili. However, I'm not 100% certain. It was such chaos there. So I'm welcome to your suggestions if you think differently, if you think it was the invested pack that moved off along Triple M. Just never know. Right, so Lucy sent through an update saying that she'd heard alarm calls around the Djuma Dam pan. I know that the final control ladies also reported they heard Franklin shouting. I think it's worth investigating. Maybe, just maybe, that update that we got about the leopard calling could be that that leopard is still around the dam area. But I think that James's signal has come right back up, so while I make my way there, let's see what James has to say.
Sorry about that, everyone. The squirrel eventually came down out of the tree and has wandered off into the distance there. I'm pretty sure a snake has gone into this termite mound. Andrew agrees with me. We're probably not going to start prodding around in it. he did suggest maybe trying to attack it with a large piece of wood, break it down, see if we could find the snake inside. I said no, not a good idea. Right, on we go. There were some other tracks of buffalo in this area, some elephant tracks. Are you right? Whoops. And and so we'll follow along here and see if we can't spot some of them. It's a lovely open part of the reserve, and we're going through what we call a seep now. This would be an area where there would be some sort of above surface water flow and subsurface water flow as well during years of good rain, and you can actually see from the grasses around here make very rich, good grazing grasses. And the indicator species of a seep line is this terminalia here. Terminalia, silver cluster leaf trees, and they like to grow on inundated soils. Now, you're not going to be very happy this year because there is no inundation of any kind. Anyway, hello Nigel, very nice and interesting question about dams. And you say, if a dam dries out, when it fills up again, does it help the ecology sort of reset? There's no kind of resetting, Nigel, of the ecology. There's no sort of that would indicate some sort of progression towards an ultimate point, beyond which, and then, you know, you have a crash and then a reset and then a progression towards an ultimate point. Rather, what happens is that this is a constantly changing cyclical environment. There's not so much a reset as a constant state of flux and change. And the dams, of course, are man-made, and so they, while they certainly have an enormous impact on the ecology here, to describe them as sort of providing some sort of reset function, no, I think would be wrong, Nigel. Certainly when they fill up, the ecology will change, but the ecology has changed with them being dry at the moment. So I don't think that there's going to be a tremendous sort of reset. Yes, there is a sort of wave-like motion. It's difficult to explain, but every animal out here, every plant, every piece of soil is undergoing a constant stage of flux. And I think the best way to describe it would be to use the sort of predator-prey relationship where, of course, if you have too many prey, so the predator numbers will increase, and as the predator numbers increase, so the prey numbers decrease, and then they'll cross each other on that curve and start to do the opposite again. And that's what we call a dynamic equilibrium. And that's just on two planes with two species. All around us, with the hundreds of species here, and the abiotic, which means the things that aren't living, the abiotic components of the ecosystem out here are in a constant stage of dynamic equilibrium. And the cycles are different for all of them. They're not the same for the trees as they are for the grasses. The times that they take are not the same. And so, yeah, it's all just a constant state of flux. And people often think or say, people often think and say things like, well, you know, in a good year when things return to normal. There is no normal out here. It's normal all the time, or it's odd all the time. Okay, I've sort of strolled up here in an attempt to be sort of a Fred Astaire of the bush, but I now can't get down without coming back the same way. What a wonderful marula tree. I was trying to think of some analogy for this marula tree as I walked up it, but unfortunately I failed to think of one. Anyway, it was very fun walking up the front of it. Let's carry on. Right. Now, Ozian, you have asked a particularly astute question. You want to know about dung, and you say if dung is drier in the winter time or in the dry times, have animals adapted a certain function to be able to reabsorb water from their dung? Yes, they have. It's one of the reasons that dung out here is normally like this. It's normally pelletized. There's very little moisture in this even when it comes out. And I mean, there's certainly no moisture in it now. It's obviously dry. And animals like buffalo, which make very wet dung, are unsurprisingly water dependent. But animals like steenbok, this looks to me like impala dung or perhaps nyala, animals like steenbok are totally independent of water if they have to be. They will drink if they can, but they don't have to drink. They can suck all of the moisture out of their food. They've got tremendously complicated, if you know, the more you move towards deserts, so the more efficient the kidneys become. And there's I think it's the loop of Henle, which is a part of the kidney that is particularly good at reabsorbing water from the blood that is being filtered through the kidneys. So yes, absolutely. Rodents especially, particularly good at being able to avoid getting very dry. They're very, very good at being able to absorb as much water as they can. And in fact, their urine in many cases is like a paste. It's hardly liquid. Andrew, this is the perfect marula tree to climb, isn't it? We won't do it live though, of course. Imagine climbing that, everybody. Sitting up here, watching the sun come up and having a cup of coffee, listening to the dawn chorus. That would be a very spectacular way to spend the early sunrise. Very artistic there is our friend Andrew Francis. Kirsty says you're doing a great job, Andrew. What this is? Jennifer, you want to know about slime in the bottom of the dams and what terrapins eat, and do they eat the slime? Of course, there are various kinds of slime that come up in the dams, Jennifer, and I think you'll find that, I mean, slime is a kind of generic term, I think, for algae and anything sort of distasteful and slippery to the touch. Terrapins, however, are largely carnivorous, so no, they wouldn't be eating too much in the way of slime. They'll be trying to look for invertebrates that live in the water, ticks on, I'm assuming you mean at the Djuma Dam Cam. They'd be eating the ticks off the buffalo and the hippo that are there, and possibly even chewing at the odd wound that exists on either the buffalo or the hippo. They're like waterborne oxpeckers almost, but they're not vegetarians. I think they might be slightly omnivorous, but they're largely carnivorous. Here is a very young tree, and I'm just trying to figure out what it is. Oh, it's a conifera. They turn into the most beautiful trees. And the reason I like them so much, they've got the most delicious, subtle citrusy smell. It smells like grandmother's marmalade. It takes me straight into sitting around a table on holiday and having marmalade for breakfast. Andrew, I'm going to provide you with a smell. Nice, eh?
Yes.
Really nice. Just like fresh boiled marmalade. Lots of people don't like marmalade. We don't speak to those sorts of people, do we, Andrew?
Never.
All right, we're going to carry on through here. Let's head across to Jamie, see what she's doing, and I'll catch up with you, hopefully, with some kind of animal to show you.
Still on our way towards the Djuma waterhole and the Gallagher waterhole to see if we can figure out what was causing all of those alarm calls. I'm just thinking about our start to the morning and the fact that there were no animals on quarantine, as I mentioned, when we very first set out on our sunrise safari, and I strongly suspect that that was because the wild dogs had come through at some point a little bit earlier this morning. Well, now, how do we go about this? We go look for leopard, I think. I think that's what we're after. It's been alerting the various antelope species to its presence. I want to check Gallagher Tan first, just in case it's decided to move through in that direction. The leopards love that particular area. It's nice and dense, good hiding place for them. And during our race around checking out the wild dogs, I haven't picked up on any leopard tracks coming across in this direction. So it could well be that the leopard that was heard calling is still in the area somewhere around there. Let's go and investigate. I've also noticed that every single impala herd that I've driven past on this route, which is the route that the wild dogs would take, are on alert. So we could still bump into that other pack, whichever other pack it happens to be. Keep your eyes peeled. What an awesome way to start the morning. Good question, because sometimes we throw out terminology and we don't necessarily explain exactly what it means. And Leanne has asked, what do we mean when we mention a block? What kind of size are we talking about? Is it marked off coordinates? And Leanne, the block sizes differ from block to block, and essentially what a block is, and I wish I had my map with me, but unfortunately I don't think that I do. But essentially a block is a patch of bush, just like this one, where it's surrounded by roads. So let's say we've got Buffels Hook, Wubu, and Galago Shortcut all surrounding what we then term a block. And of course, depending on the layout of your roads, it differs from road to road exactly how large the block might be. In this particular case, this is a very dense block. We know it, we're very familiar with it. It's where the two hyena dens are, the Galago Shortcut den and the Mbubu Road den. I've got the leopard tracks here. Sorry. Let's just go back 1 second. Okay, so we are looking for a leopard. That's what's been causing the alarm calls. Where did I just see that? Am I going mental? Sorry, bear with me a second. Oh man, I swear I just saw a leopard track. My eyes are pouring though, from all of the dust. Looks like a female leopard wandering down the road. It's a bit of a tricky block to track in, but it could well be, and obviously if it is, we won't be following up, but it could well be Karula on her way to have a drink, having been hunting at night, and then going back towards the den site. Obviously, if that is the case, if that is where the tracks go, then we certainly won't be following her at this stage. Let's go check the Galago pan. Now, usually when antelope species call, when they alarm call, that sharp bark that they make, whether it's Unyala or Bushwalk or Kudu. No, sorry, it's not a female, it's a male. Let me try and show you a nice set of these tracks. I just saw his back foot, that's why I got... Oh, sorry, Brian. Put Brian in a buffalo thorn there. That's not a pleasant tree at all. Sorry, Brian. There we go, the tracks are wandering down along the road. Can we get them there? Perfect, thank you. Here's our leopard tracks. Here we go. Perfect. The front track and the back track, so a male on a mission, walking fairly fast, his back track's moving in front of his front track, which tells us something of the speed. And he's going straight towards Galago Pan. You hear that bird trilling above my head. There's a crested barbet. It's straight into the sun, so I'm not going to ask for Bryan to try and show it to you. But let's just listen for a second. Just listen to this trill. Listen to this, how long it continues. Ooh, that's bright. All in one breath of air. Have you spotted him, Bryan? I'm very impressed. Well done. I can't see anything into the sun at the moment. So all of this, he's hiding somewhere in this tree. There he is. Well done, Bryan. You can see him vibrating around. And why is he so capable of trilling for that length of time on one lungful of air? It's because he's got two separate windpipes, or essentially he's able to breathe in through one and expel air and create that trill from another. So he can breathe in whilst breathing out. Awesome little adaptation by my little bird. Right, I'm going to track my male leopard. Apparently, James has found some male leopard tracks as well. I think we better do some coordinating, but in the meantime, let's pop over to James and have a look at his tracks.
Now, as Jamie has, I'm feeling a little embarrassed that she's outdone me completely on the animal finding front. I'm not surprised by it, of course. She is rather clever in that way. But we have some leopard tracks here on the road, male leopard tracks. I can't see them anymore. And we're just trying to see where they went. They looked pretty fresh. They're on top of a number of other tracks here. But somebody has just driven down this road at an immense speed. And I think that they may have obliterated some of the bit more fresher ones. Anyway, let's keep going down the road here. And if we see them again, we'll probably try and follow them. We'll keep our eyes open, listen out for alarm calls, and I know that there is a game path. There it is. There's a game path over there that goes down towards another road, and I hope that he's gone that way, because if he's headed off there, then he is definitely going to cross out of the reserve. Now, on the end of my stick here is a eggshell, and this eggshell we think is probably from a francolin, a large francolin. I would go with, oh dear, sorry Andrew, I would go with, I would have said it was large enough to be a Swainson's francolin egg, but maybe just a common garden variety crested francolin. Isn't that lovely? But you'd have to crack quite a few of those to make yourself an omelette worth eating. Now, now you see, I don't see this male leopard tracks anymore. There he is. That's just a very slight indentation. Here's a much better track, Andrew. There we can see him. So he's come down this road. We'll check this game path here to see if he's heading towards the pan. Otherwise we'll continue up the road. And with any luck we'll find him in a tree with a freshly murdered and hapless antelope. Not nice for the antelope, of course, but the leopard must eat. Now, we're in the territory of Mvula, and so I suspect that this is possibly Mvula. Tingana, of course, has been making forays into this area of late, as have his two sons, not Tingana's sons, Mvula's sons, Quarantine and Gunyuma. Now, I'm just going to, and you can stay on the road there. Oh no, he's here. He's here. He's come down here. There he is. Right, this is fantastic. You must just keep looking up, because if you don't keep looking up and you just watch down like this, suddenly the tracks stop and they end on a spotted foot that's looking at you, wondering why you haven't seen him. So he's definitely come down this track here. Now, leopards, much like us, of course, will enjoy walking outside of the grass because it's just easier to walk. There he goes. There's lots of other activity here. I suspect these tracks are probably from last night. I don't think they're from this morning. That looked like there was an impala on top of him there. Various other tracks going through here. I don't see him anymore. Let's just keep checking down here. He may have headed off that way. I have a feeling that he did. Yeah, he's not on this track anymore. What they do is, though, now, if you're a leopard, what they do, let me just demonstrate quickly. So they'll walk along, they'll walk along a road like this, path like this, smell something here, turn around, walk like this, mark their territory over there, walk across the road here like this, mark their territory over there, walk backwards slightly, turn around, sniff something, and then keep going. Now, if you happen to come across a scene like that a few hours after it's happened, it's almost impossible to try and figure out what's going on. If the leopard is walking along a track like this, you know, obviously marking his territory, well, then he's much easier to follow. But he's moved off this track, I think. I don't see his tracks anymore. I'm just indicating to Stef that I think he's gone down here. Stef will go back and check the road. We might just continue along this little path quickly. It would be so nice to see him on foot, would it not? Anyway, while we're doing this, just have a look here at this buffalo dung. While Steffi's just checking the road there. And this buffalo dung, of course, is not alone. It has been eaten out again by termites, and as a drought progresses, so this sort of dung, with all the moisture that it contains, so as it's dropped, it becomes more and more valuable as a food source and a source of moisture for birds, for insects, and especially for the termites, of course, which are insects in themselves. Let me just ask Stef. No, I can see he doesn't quite have it yet. Okay, right, let's go across to Jamie. We'll try and figure out where these tracks are, and we'll come back to you when we have figured them out. Jamie is on her tracks. Let's see what's going on there.
Now the mystery, of course, is are James and myself tracking the same animal or different one? We've got 2 male leopards, and most likely entirely possible that we could be tracking Impala and Tingana.
I think Jamie's following up on some
They could well be in the same area, and it would also explain if they were moving about in similar circles. It might explain the vocalizations that were heard early last night. I think the fact that you heard alarm calls early this morning around the Djuma Dam suggests to me that we're tracking different animals. I think Mbula might have come in from Torchwood, and Tingana's pushed in from the western side, so from opposite directions. Just going to keep our eyes peeled. I think I'm going to go around towards the Mulwati and just double check around there.
southerly direction. Then I think we turn
Just
south.
listening to the radio comms, guys. Bear with me 1 second.
So we're following it there. Copy that. I'm going to check the Mulwati from...
There we go. That's exactly what I need Brent to do. Brent is going to go and check the Mulwati drainage line, and I'm going to check around Gowrie cut line. And that way we've got a sort of a perfect approach, because Brent's right in the middle. James is tracking in from the east, I'm tracking in from the west, and Brent's coming up the middle of both of us. So we've increased our chances twofold of finding either Mbula or Tingana this morning. Sure. And what a busy morning it has been. Just checking carefully in the shade. Having viewers such as yourselves does do for us is sometimes we do things without realizing that we do them, including the South Africanism that Melissa has picked up upon. So Melissa would like to know why I keep saying sure and what does it mean, and I'm just trying to think how you would spell that. It's a South African colloquialism which is basically similar to the exclamation phew, I guess, and it kind of gets thrown out in different ways, whether it's something bad or something good. In this particular case, I'm using it to mean, wow, that was an incredible morning, only in less words, and it's spelled S-J-O-E. Sure. So that's what choo means, Melissa. I'm now very aware of the fact that I've been saying it a lot this morning. It's just been one of those choo mornings. I don't know how else to describe it. We've got all kinds of wonderful little South African colloquialisms that confuse people when we speak. Probably our most well-known one is our absolute inability to use the words just now as English intended them to be meant. Now, just now, for most people around the world, and correctly so, means it happened previously, just a little bit previously to when we're talking about. When South Africans say just now, we mean it in the exact opposite. It means in the future. So if you say to somebody, I'll do it just now, we mean in the future. If we say we're going to do it now, or in a little bit, all of those have slightly different meanings. None of us can explain exactly where the difference lies, but every South African knows what you mean. If I say I'm going to do it now, versus I'm going to do it just now, I have completely different meanings for those sentences. Bryan would know exactly what I meant. Unfortunately, people who have not grown up speaking South African might be a little bit confused. Let's just have a quick chat to Craig, see how he's doing. Morning, everyone. How's it, Craig? How are you? Good, thanks. I'm just going to see if he's popped out somewhere around the drainage line.
These tracks you're following, is it for big male or?
Fairly big, yeah. I think maybe Tingana. Looks.
Okay, the ones that are there, they're much smaller.
Oh, okay. So I think we are tracking different leopards.
Okay, and there's nothing. Have they come out from?
I haven't found where they've popped up, but I haven't checked Mvubu Road. I just wanted to do a loop around that.
Right,
enjoy. Yes, guys.
Good loop.
We have to continue on our conversation after just discussing plans with Craig. We have all kinds of funny little. One of our other brilliant ones is shame. South Africans use the word shame in the most inappropriate situations we can possibly bring up and imagine. So whenever something's really cute, when something's adorable, for example, the hyena cubs, we always go, oh, shame, man. We don't mean shame as in pity, we mean, isn't that cute? It's amazing how different places develop different little patterns of speech that don't always make sense unless you've been raised speaking them. I'm trying to think, there's all kinds of colloquialisms, and the wonderful thing about South Africa as well is that it is so multicultural that we throw in different mixes of languages. So you'll find on any given day we'll use a combination of mostly English, but then you'll throw in the odd Afrikaans word, the odd Zulu word. Just want to poke my head down into this drainage line and see what this oxpecker's shouting about. Oxpecker sitting in a situation we don't always see them in. I think they might be nesting in this tree. It's distinctly possible. Or he's just looking for the next large animal to go and sit on to feed off the ticks. I think it has managed to catch something there. I don't know exactly what that is. It could be food, it could be nesting material. Is it going to feed a chick? Let's just wait and see. What are you up to, oxpecker? Are you bringing food home? Are you the breadwinner or the tick winner of the family? Nope, I'm just going to stare into space. Confusing everybody. Although they will mainly eat ticks, that doesn't mean that they're going to ignore other potential meals. And a dead tree such as this one, with all of its peeling bark, is a haven for creepy crawlies. And there you go, there's another South Africanism. A hocha is our term for the creepy crawlies. Anything from termites to wood borers, all hiding in the bark. It's also the perfect place to build a nest if you're an oxpecker. Nice little hollow of a tree. Not entirely sure what this oxpecker is planning on doing, though. It doesn't appear to have eaten whatever is in its beak. It's just kind of sitting. The anticipation is killing me. What is this oxpecker going to do? Nothing. Oh well, it was worth a shot. It also gives me a really nice opportunity to sit and listen for alarm calls. because we don't know exactly where that leopard has decided to move off to. I haven't seen any tracks popping out of the block, which means I might have to go back to where I first had the tracks and go for a bit of a wander, a bit of a walk. I also always check this particular area because I'm waiting for the day, and it never seems to happen, but I'm waiting for the day when a leopard very kindly makes itself at home in the jackalberry tree. I check it every single time I come past here. It's the perfect leopard tree. Look at those reaching boughs. A place that would be perfect. Look how comfortable that looks for a leopard to lie on. One day I will come around and there will be a leopard here. And while I go off in search of my leopard, let's find out how James is doing with his search.
Right, everybody, Andrew is trying to be very artistic with a sort of a shot of the flies that are starting to inundate us. He's covered his face in a buff because of the flies. Now, the tracks that we were following, they did turn down that drainage line. They did turn south where I thought they would. Well, no, where I thought they had. This is not due to any kind of skill on my part. It's pure blind luck. But we found them again. They came along the road here, and then they turned down towards this fairly steep banked drainage line or dry stream. There's a woodpecker hammering away at his tree off to the south of us there, a bearded woodpecker going tappity tap 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 tap, and he's marking his territory like that. And while he's doing that, we're going to try and cross this drainage line, but we have to, you know, we can't just walk through it, of course, because Andrew Francis has to get through with his aerial. That's a brown hooded kingfisher saying, "Pity for you, pity for you, pity for you." Right, so let's go along here. We'll try and find a crossing point, and then we'll go across and see if we can't find a mvula lying up in the glorious African dawn light. Well, it's actually more like blinding white light at this stage of the morning already. Here would be another obvious place for something like a leopard to walk. So if I was looking for tracks, which ironically I am, I would certainly check a path like this. It very clearly goes off into the bush and obviously represents a fairly well-worn track to somewhere. And a lot of these tracks, of course, will lead to water during the wet season. At the moment, they're not leading to anywhere other than dust at the moment. And while we're sitting here, we're just, of course, listening for alarm calls, seeing what we can see and listening to what we can hear. Let's have a look here at what is known as the baboon's tail, or zero fighter reti nervus. Say that, Andrew. Yes, that's what I thought. And a zero fighter, of course, a xerophytic plant is a plant that can survive in the desert, survives with very little water, often stores a lot of its own water. That's precisely what happens with the baboon's tail. Underneath the ground there is a lot of water in the underground parts of the plant, and I think you'll find here, if we can break one, there'll be quite a lot of moisture inside there as well. Yes, I can feel it. I can feel quite a lot of moisture in there. Beautiful, beautiful flowers, and they flowered early on in the season, but they're now already going into a state of dormancy. You can see the leaves, which would normally be green at this time of the year, are brown, and they'll be sloughed off, and the plant will go dormant until better times. It'd be quite nice if we could do that as human beings, you know. We could just kind of shut down during tough times and, you know, wake up again when times were good. Like cryogenic freezing, Andrew. Do you think we should cryogenically freeze you when you pass on?
Not really.
I'm not sure about that. This is the most beautiful, beautiful drainage line. Look at the lovely big trees here that grow on the side. Right, there's a question here from Safari Dean for you, Andrew. If everybody but Bryan and Andrew was sick, who would be the presenter and who would be the cameraman? Would you like to present or be the cameraman, Andrew?
No, Bryan's the showman.
Bryan's the showman. He also has the hair, of course. So I think Bryan would probably present. Are you going to make it down here?
Yeah.
That's actually incredibly impressive. Now this is a lovely tree that I learnt about fairly recently. It's called a sneeze wood, or Pterazygum obliquum. I'll just say that loudly so Stefan hears me. Pterazygum obliquum. And what it does is it smells like cheese curls. Ooh. You probably need a bit more wood than this, but do you remember those cheese curls chips, Andrew? Those horrible things that are basically made of straight tartrazine mixed with a bit of polystyrene. When the wood is mature, you can rub it, and that's what it tastes. That's what it smells like. I'm sure you have the equivalent wherever you are in the world. Disgusting things. Children love them. Shouldn't be given to anybody except prisoners on death row. Ah, and James Richard, you're absolutely correct. You say marmalade, eggs, cheese. I've got breakfast on the brain. Yes, certainly there is a certain piece of me that definitely has cheese on the brain. Not cheese, breakfast on the brain. Sorry, one more plant for you here, Andrew. This is an interesting creeper, and it's just, I don't know much about it except for the name, and its name is Roycesis tridentata. And the tridentata part of it, I think, is quite interesting. It's dentate, dentata meaning teeth. It's got teeth on it, you can see. And tri, 3 obviously, and it's got 3 leaflets per leaf, and that's why it's called tridentata. And it's normally a creeper. The elephants do like to eat it very much, so clearly no elephants have been through here in the last little while. Let's continue our quest. Hello, Liz Larper. Liz Larper, you want to know if those baboons' tails plump up when the rain comes, a bit like the cacti in the desert do. They don't plump up. They would probably swell slightly with more moisture. And I suspect the underground parts of the plant would probably grow quite a lot more than the overground parts. But no, they don't swell noticeably. Now, this is an excellent place to be checking for tracks, because it's sandy, and lo and behold, there is a track, but it is a hyena's track, and I know that because of that kidney-shaped pad there, and it's very much attached to the back pad, whereas on a leopard it would look far more exploded. This has been, I mean, this place has been denuded of any kind of nutrition and vegetation. Alright, last thing I want to show you before we go back to Jamie is this hole. And I think this is an ideal spot for rodents to come and burrow. So I think perhaps this is a bushveld gerbil of some sort. It might be another kind of rodent. I think there are lots of rodents out here that we kind of immediately describe as bushveld gerbils, but one of them could be living in there. Right, we're going to carry on here. No more tracks at the moment. Try and find a few more. Let's go across to Jamie, see how she's progressing, and I'll see you shortly.
An exciting news that we are still with our leopard tracks. I told you, you have to keep your eyes peeled. And if you missed it, I'm not going to tell you what you missed. You just have to keep watching. Now, I'm still with our leopard tracks. He's wandered down along the Twin Dams Road, so he walked straight past the Djuma Dam. At some point, the reason I've stopped and I'm really just examining these tracks carefully is I want to see what animals have walked over them. And I'm doing that in order to get a good idea as to the age of the tracks. Again, I've spoken about this before. It's why it's important to be able to identify the different bird tracks. I can tell you that the Franklins walked all across the top of his tracks. So these tracks are probably from when Lucy heard those alarm calls moving past the Djuma Dam. Brent is just further to the south of me, so he's going to be keeping an eye out. These tracks I think these tracks just went off, sorry. Nope, they're still there, Keep your eyes peeled. I actually think we're on the heels of this particular leopard. We've lost about an hour. He has an hour head start on us. Oh my goodness, okay. Sorry guys, bear with me one moment. I've just got a message from Brent. Just bear with me one moment.
For now, she's mobile. So, you know that donga, probably the first donga comes from the gate south. And that donga that cuts into west. Yeah, she's in that area there. And that's it. The donga.
So Shadow has just crossed into Boyatella. I just want to get a rough idea as to where she is. Andrew, do you still have visual of her?
Yeah, fair, I got a visual.
Copy that. I'd like to join you. Oh goodness, it's such a toss-up. There's a male leopard somewhere here, but we haven't seen Shadow for ages. What should we do? What should we do? Quick decision. Apparently Andrew says she's going to disappear into a drainage line. I'm just double checking carefully that I haven't missed this leopard while I've been talking, but his tracks are still on the road. Okay, I'm going to leave Brent to track this male. Let's go. Let's go find Shadow. Haven't seen her in a while. Melissa, it's a short morning. Definitely a short morning. Whew. And she's just emerged onto Boyatella where we left those wild dogs. How crazy is that? That is the place to be this morning. I'm just going to let Brent know that I'm leaving those leopard tracks for now. Maybe he can follow up. Brent for Jamie. Just to let you know, I'm going to follow up on Shadow. Last tracks for that in the Daughter Ingwe were between or just to the north of the Warburgs Junction.
Copy, I'm in the junction now. There's no tracks here.
Copy that, John. As though he was going to wander off to cut across to that side.
I think we're the same tracks, James, for them.
Okay, Ferrari Safari. And while I race off, let's pop over to James. I'll catch up with you, hopefully, fingers crossed, with Shadow.
3. Okay, nothing further, but let's give Jamie some time to get to Shadow. It sounds very exciting. Yet again, she has found all the animals. I'm going to have to lean against this tree because I feel deeply, deeply emasculated.
This is what you found, James. Well done.
I don't know if you heard Andrew here. He said, well, this is what I found. An enormous pile of elephant turd. Wonderful. Now, what we do have here, of course, is a tambuti tree. And a tambuti tree, to me, is a fascinating thing. And the first thing you should do when you see a tambuti tree is to look around the base to see if anything's been eating it. And the only thing that would eat a tambuti tree at the base, and hasn't been eating this one, of course, because I am showing you, would be a porcupine. And a porcupine can eat the bark, but most animals cannot, because it is filled with toxins. And like I was saying the other day, beautiful smelling wood if you burn it, but if you try and cook on it, you can actually kill yourself. It will taint the meat and make you very sick indeed. There we go. Right. It's just so very beautiful walking through here. And as James Richards says, we are missing some bacon to complete my breakfast. And do you need some help there? Andrew is just making like Sir Lancelot and getting his aerial through the trees. Ooh. I think we may have disturbed the nesting site of a flock of green wood hoopoes. There's some dead trees around here. Just come, if Andrew, see if you can come this way. Yes. They're now staring into the sun though. There are lots of dead trees here, and they will nest. They're communal nesting birds that will nest inside cavities in dead trees. Can you see one? No. I can't see one either. Okay, let's carry on. James Richard, you say I need to find some bacon to complete the breakfast. A warthog, very good idea. We'll try and do that. So we haven't found any further tracks of that male leopard, but we're going to sort of walk through this area, keep looking, keep checking, and this is round about the direction in which he was heading. There's a kind of moist patch here. Yes. Ooh, something has definitely deposited some urine in this particular area. Quite a lot of urine, and very smelly urine at that. I'm not sure exactly what. It doesn't quite have the buttered popcorn taste or smell of leopard urine. That's disgusting. Right, on we go. Might have been the leopard. Could have been a hyena from the smell. May have actually been an antelope as well. I don't know what it was. I'm not an expert in urine smells. Must remember to wash my hands before I have my breakfast, of course. Now, a lot of the plants that I'm looking at here will normally carry berries at this time of the year. But again, because of the lack of water, there aren't any berries on them. The white berry bush that we sometimes see, the kubu berry bush, the marula tree, that's a young marula tree, hardly any marulas this year. And I just think that that's, well, I mean, it's interesting. But I love walking through the bush, being able to have a snack. It's the most amazing thing, I think, to be able to walk through the wilderness and actually pick something and eat it. Because it's not an experience we have very often, of course. Normally we are buying ready packaged things, and we forget what it is like. And in fact, I mean, some young kids, of course, have absolutely no idea where things like eggs come from. So just to keep you posted, Jamie is rushing towards Shadow. We don't know how much of a view we're going to get of her, and we haven't seen her for a long time, so it would be very nice to see her. So if you suddenly crash, cut away from me, it's not a technical glitch. It's Jamie, the game finder, finding more game. Now this tree is called a black monkey thorn, and you don't want to be caught in amongst this thing. You'll never get out again. But it is very pretty. With lovely small leaflets and very sharp thorns, and it's called a black monkey thorn because the thorns are normally, except on this one of course, tipped with black. Here's quite a nice example, Andrew. There you can see this thorn here. Yeah, you see Andrew is now stuck in the black monkey thorn. There you can see that's tipped there. See, tipped with a darker colour. Mm-hmm. Normally that's black. That's why it's called a black monkey thorn. Acacia burkii. Now, we're walking very slowly through here because it's quite difficult to get the cameraman through. We're in a deep thicket. Can you get through here? Come forward 3 steps, you'll be fine. There we go. Let's just push straight through here. There we go. Well done, Andrew. Oh dear. Oh dear. Oh dear. Right, that was Sisyphus. Ooh, there's a grasshopper. Now, these grasshoppers that we find here, I don't know which kind it is, but they've got something called aposematic coloration. Now, what that means is that it makes this, it'll flash, it's on the ground here, and it will flash off the ground, and you'll see suddenly this flash of yellow, and then it'll fold its wings again. And that's a way of kind of, if I was a bird looking for grasshoppers, I would walk, there it goes. Did you see it? No. I would walk up to it, try and peck it, and then it would explode out of the bush with this flash of yellow, and I'd get a fright, and my head would knock back, and then it would fold its wings again and become totally invisible. There it goes. Right, so keep a wide there. No, there. Okay, I can see him clearly now. And if you sit down over here, Right, I'm going to bring this down on top of him. He's right underneath my stick. Right underneath my stick. Can you see him? Beautiful green grasshopper. Can you see him? No.
No.
You got him. They can see him. Kirsten can see him.
Oh, he's super camouflaged.
He's super camouflaged. Isn't that amazing? And there's a spider just above him. But let's just keep an eye on the grasshopper for now. So that coloration, you can see how beautifully camouflaged he is. So if I was a francolin walking through here, I would be looking for seeds, but if I found a grasshopper like this, I'd probably eat it. And I'd see the grasshopper make a lunge, and the grasshopper would then flash open its wings. I'd get a fright. The grasshopper would then fold its wings again and disappear. And the francolin would probably move on to try and find something else to eat. Isn't that unbelievable camouflage? I think that is absolutely fantastic. You can see him, hey Andrew? Just want to quickly see if we can see the spider. If you just stay exactly where you are, Andrew, and I'm going to try and encourage the spider to come out into the frame. There. It's just jump behind. Can you see it? It's a jumping spider directly behind the grasshopper. Directly behind the grasshopper. See it there? There, it's moving. Oh, it's jumping around there. Right, we're going to try and get a picture of that. Let's head across to Jamie now. I'm afraid she doesn't have very good news for you, but she'll tell you what that is. See you shortly.
I'm going to be moving out of that position.
And for our absolute best efforts, despite our absolute best efforts, we didn't quite get to her in time. She crossed from Simbabili onto Buyatela and then crossed straight back onto Simbabili. And unfortunately, she has vanished off just 2 seconds before we arrived. The testiculars are still shouting, alarm calling at her presence. But we just missed out. Sorry, everyone, we didn't quite get there in time. Just one of those things. I guess possibly we used up our Triple M luck for the morning. Sense of deja vu. It has been a fantastic morning, but she has gone off somewhere in that direction. But at least we know Shadow is around and alive and well. I do want to just inch forward in case she does come through. How's it, Craig?
We
meet again.
You one stop and she said not they're moving all the time there.
Oh well, next time. It was totally worth it though, just for that brief glimpse that we might have had of Shadow. I wonder, because apparently I'm hearing reports now that she has a kill on Simbambili. So I wonder whether it wasn't the wild dog presence that actually shifted her from where she was and sent her careering off into Djuma and then straight back towards wherever her kill is, further to the west of us. I'm checking carefully. For all we know, she might just have gone round down behind the termite mound and lay down. It seems as though the fates have conspired to keep Bryan and myself wandering around Triple M. I did, however, before I raced off away from my male leopard tracks, give Brent the position of the last track. He says he's not entirely certain in his own mind that we're not tracking the same animal as James. I have no idea. I haven't seen James's tracks. I know that my leopard is a fairly large male. I would be quite surprised if it had managed to, if that leopard had caused those alarm calls at about 6 o'clock or 6:30 this morning, and then managed to get all the way to the other side of Djuma. My guess is that we're tracking 2 different leopards. Come on, Shadow. Be nice, girl. Anywhere, any sign? Cool. Oh, she's there. back, she's in the tree. It's not a great visual. She's hanging in the tree. I can just see her tail and her bottom. Can you see her there? Where is she? I promise you she's there. Craig, I don't know if you copied. I've got visual of her in the tree itself. It's not great visual.
All right, copy. Yeah, let me just turn around. Thanks, Jamie. Is there space for another vehicle?
That's affirmative. Awesome. You can
Copy. She's
just
on
see.
Zimbabwe.
Here we go. Right in the middle. That's affirmative. There's space for another vehicle, but visual's about 1 out of 5.
I can see a tail bounce. Thank you.
Awesome. Just a hinted spots hiding off. How's it, guys? How are you? There's a leopard hiding in the tree. She's tucked right through that branch. It's very hard to see. Just spots. Awesome. So it was worth the mad race. Okay, not the greatest visual I've ever seen. And I can't go on to Zimbabwe to show you a closer view. I'm quite impressed. I spotted that actually. I'm quite chuffed. She is positively draped. Let me see if there's not a better position that I can't find for you guys. I don't think so, though. Aiming for that little gap. Now, one of the reasons... Not so much, eh? That's not any better than it was. We might have to do a couple of 20-point turns. I can see feet. How's it? She's on that bough that moves across like this. I can just see feet and a tail. I'll try and move to make space for you as well. There you can see her feet dangling in there. Bryan, I don't know how that view is for you. I'll try to get you into a gap there.
What about you looking, Jamie?
Not fantastic. There's a small gap,
Yeah.
and there's a bough that moves across to the right.
Yeah.
And from that ivory branch, she's on there. She's actually lying on that branch. Very difficult for me to explain. And what I'd like to do is try and just be able to point it out to Craig and at the same time manage to reposition so that you can get a visual. Now just bear with me a moment while I do that. Craig, I think maybe the best point for you to see would be from where I am.
Yeah, let me just sneak around. Right in this little gap there.
Right in the gap. She's probably about 2 meters from this tree itself, to the right of it.
Are you talking about right here?
In the tree itself. We actually can't see her from where I am. I wonder if I could ask how James's tracking is going, just so that I can reposition and shift around and also help Craig out, since I have called him into the sighting. Let's just double check and find out what he's up to. And there we go. I'm going to send you across very briefly. I'm going to try and get another view for you, and I'm going to help Craig out, and I'll be back with you very shortly.
3. So we've kind of given up on the tracks, I'm afraid, of Mvula. We're heading generally in the direction that they went, but I don't know at the moment. You've seen a leopard though, so don't complain about it. Now here is the tracks I think, and I'm going to stand to correction here, except I've just now obliterated them, which is incredibly irritating, of a waterbuck. They're very heart-shaped. Sorry about that. I'll try and find a better one. Waterbuck, I mean, they look like just about any deer or antelope track. The two cloven hooves, very sharp in the front, but they're very heart-shaped. And I think that's what that was. Right, on we go. It could have been a kudu. They are quite similar. We're still in the quite thick bush now, and the sun has started to warm things. Well, I mean, it had started that at about 4:30 this morning, but there are now the kind of heat of the day birds calling, especially that one, my favorite one out here. That's one of them. That's the white-browed scrub robin, and then there's another one going. And that is the chin spot batis. And as I've said to you before, you will hear some people tell you that that is the call 3 blind mice. Not unless you're tone deaf, it isn't. Right, come on then. And the aromas of the bush are changing completely as the heat starts to build. Very nice. Interesting. Cindy, very nice question from you, and I'm not sure that I can answer it satisfactorily, but I'll give it a go. You want to know why we're not hearing cicadas anymore, given that we're in the heat of the summer still. I think, as you correctly guess, they are fairly short-lived. I think they've had their breeding season, and they're probably, finished already, and most of the adults are dead. But I think what you'll also find is that they would have lasted longer again had there been more water around. So I think you're correct that there were certainly lots and lots of them to start with, and I think as things didn't get particularly wet this year, so the cicadas have finished their life cycle probably rather earlier than they would have. And I mean, this water thing is affecting absolutely everything, as you can see and you can hear. In the mornings when the sun comes up, the dawn chorus is so much quieter than I remember it. I've never heard it this quiet in the summer. It sounds like a winter dawn chorus. There's something white through there, but I've just got to get Andrew through here, of course. What I can hear also is a grey-headed bushshrike. It's also often a bird of the middle of the day, and it's going. And it's very amusing if you can actually find it. We'll try and see if we can find it. They go they click click with the beak, and then they go. It's very amusing to watch. Come, let's see if we can find it. There, you can hear it. And just quickly, before we go through there, we've been seeing little piles of this dung, and you'll find that this is the dung. Sorry, Stef's just whistling at me. Impala alarm calling. Okay, but very far away. I don't think we're going to go that way. We're quite close to the vehicle. We might go and have a look from the vehicle. We'll just stand here and listen. We'll leave Stef listening there, and we'll just quickly go and look for this bird. That there is the dung of a duiker. They live in these areas, very neat little piles of dung. Let's see if we can find the bird. Stef will just stand back there and listen and see if the impala don't get closer, or exactly how far away they are. Right, now let's stand here and see if we can see this magnificent bird. The grey-headed bushshrike is orange. He's got a grey head, obviously. Orange and yellow, a bit of green. Big bird like that. But he seems to have moved on, which is very irritating. Come through here. We might be able to just about hear the robins calling. Now the grey-headed bushshrike was calling from this tree here. Stealthy as we are. No, I think it's gone. Anyway, let's carry on down here. Here's this Roycissus tridentata again. I told you it was a creeper, and here it is growing in the tree, and it's growing in a red bush willow tree, Combrita mapiculatum, and it does grow as a creeper. And like I say, the elephants will sort of select for it. The other one, the other member of this genus that we get here is something called Cissus or Roycissus quadrangulensis, or the elephant's pudding. And the elephants like to eat that very much. Right, Andrew. Oh, there's a bracket fungus. Andrew's just found a bracket fungus. Very beautiful. That's a stunning bracket fungus. Okay, while we decide whether we're going to follow up on this impala or whether Andrew will take the gate I've opened for him, let's head across to Jamie. She's refound Shadow, and I'll see you shortly.
I have found you the best possible visual of a leopard I have ever provided. Ta-da! Some spots hidden in a tree. And you really get an idea. If we didn't know that there was a leopard there, there's no way we would ever have spotted her with that cryptic coloration. You can really see just how well those spots work to camouflage. There's a foot hanging off to the left and a tail hanging down the middle. And I should actually have found a stick that I could try and use to point things out. Let me try and see. I'm not sure how well you all can see her. Let me experiment with this idea. Oopsie. It's a bit of an awkward angle for me. Let's see if this works. So, no, I can't actually quite reach it. I was going to try and demonstrate using a stick. Bryan's going to try and take over. And it's the world's most appropriate stick. How are we doing there? There we go. That blurry thing, that definitely isn't working, but that blurry thing over your screen, that is where the leopard is. Bryan has just shown you where the leopard is hiding. I'm just waiting to hear for an update because, believe it or not, I've just heard across the Game Drive channel that the wild dogs have made their way back towards Sydney's dam, probably the other pack of wild dogs. There's also an enormous buffalo herd making their way down there. So there's complete and utter chaos this morning. They're sending me dashing all over the place. But before I rush in there, I'm just waiting to see if they've gone mobile into Buffelshoek itself before I go dashing off. And then just enjoying the view, not the most spectacular view, but a view of Shadow, a leopard that we haven't seen in a fair amount of time. And I know that Tom was wondering, and I'm sure many of you were wondering, whether or not the rumours are true and that she's pregnant or has had cubs. I cannot confirm either, to be completely honest. She seems to be spending a lot of time around the drainage lines of Simbabili. Whether or not that is indicative of a birth on its way. I have to confess, Tom, I strongly suspect she is pregnant. When I saw her, she looked as though she was very saggy around the belly, just like Karula was looking. She had sort of the flap of skin, and although she had just eaten, I would suggest that the bulges there were not just food-related, but also baby-related. There's a strong possibility that she is pregnant, but I cannot confirm it. And I cannot confirm whether or not there are any cubs in the area. I don't think so. I don't think she has given birth just yet. But she would have been due, judging from when she was last mating, which was just after Karula, she would be due to give birth in the next few, I would say the next few days, if not the next few weeks. So there we go. I guess it was worth it. It was worth the mad dash. At least she stuck around for us, kind of. She chose the most inconvenient place she could possibly pick. But at least giving us a good demonstration of camouflage at work. It looks like one of those books that I used to play with as a kid, where they hide animals somewhere in them, and you've got to find them. And as Bryan slowly zooms out, you can really see how well the camouflage works. Exactly. James Richards, looking at this, James Richards says, imagine how many times we will have driven past a leopard in a tree, just like this, and not realize it. James, it's something I've given a considerable amount of thought to, and at which point I tried to stop thinking about it because I get slightly sad. I'm sure that I've driven past hundreds, if not thousands, I guess, in my time, of leopards hiding away in trees just like that. I wouldn't begin to know where that number falls, but I'm sure that at least once a day, maybe that's a bit much, at least once every 2 days, we drive past a leopard that we don't see hiding away in a tree. Or we just miss it. It just isn't quite at that point where it's visible to us from the road. It's one of those interesting things. And I say it makes me sad, but maybe it shouldn't. Maybe that's part of the magic of the world that we get to experience out here. Now, I think you'll all agree with me that this is not the world's most fantastic visual of a leopard that we've ever been able to provide. And it might be time to... Sorry, hold on, I need to listen to this.
Right here, come up. You see them, elephant.
Okay, time to go. Wild dog again. Everything's keeping me busy. It's ridiculous. I'm just going to grab a branch. I don't know, Bryan, maybe if you can grab one for me. Thank you, I can't quite reach. Awesome. Oh, brilliant. Thank you. There we go. Perfect. Bush willow branch in the road. Why am I doing that? Because we're leaving the sighting, but there are other vehicles that can drive onto Simbombili, so can get a better view of her. Let's see if this is better, but I don't think so. But yes. Wow, what a morning. So I'm just leaving the branch there because, as you saw, obviously, if we didn't know she was there, we would have missed her. And in fact, we very nearly did. And while I race up the bumpy Triple M, let's pop over to poor James, who has other things to show you.
We have just had a view of not the grey-headed bushshrike, but the orange-breasted version thereof, a close relative of the grey-headed bushshrike, but it has flown away, unfortunately, and Andrew did try and film it, but unfortunately it's very difficult when they are at the distance it was from him. Come on, Andrew, through you go. Right, the impala that were alarm calling on the cheetah cut line were very far away, and so we decided not to follow up on them. Well, there are two interesting comments in one from this one. Lith's Lapa, angry birds here. This Lapa, you say I should go and get into the vehicle and drive quickly to the dogs so that I might have something to show for the day. Well, this Lapa, I'm not really sure what to say to that, other than, you know, I've had quite a nice time. Yes, I suppose it would have been nice to see some large mammals, but I'm not that dejected. I hope I haven't dejected you too much. Oh, this is just stunning. Look at this drainage line here with all these termite mounds dotted about the place. It really is so pretty. Not as pretty as a wild dog, but it is very pretty. That wasn't an impala you heard alarm calling behind us. That was Stef sneezing. Bless you, Stef. There's a spider hunting wasp flying at a great speed. Andrew's doing his level best to try and follow a spider hunting wasp on Bushwalk, carrying a heavy backpack with an enormous aerial on the back of it. I don't think it's possible. Right, we definitely are heading back towards the vehicle now. The day is becoming hot, and the breakfast is becoming loud in my ears. Ah, very nice question from Christopher in Arizona. You want to know what the typical breakfast is in the African bush. Well, Christopher, it depends on who you are, really. My typical breakfast is a pile of roasted seeds and nuts with a bit of cheese in it and some very strong coffee. That's my typical breakfast. I've offered it to various people around the camp. They turn their noses up and some of them even gag. So they don't have that for breakfast. What we do have, though, alternatively, and you'll be amazed to know this, is probably exactly the same as you have for breakfast. We have bacon and eggs on some days, we have freshly baked bread or muffins on other days, and then we have things like cereals and lots of coffee most of the time, and toast. So very traditional sort of a breakfast. I'd love to tell you that we ate a great deal of mapani worms, a couple of leaves, and maybe a few caterpillars, but that isn't the case at all, Christopher. Thank you for your question. Beautiful purple flower. Couldn't begin to tell you what it is, but what is interesting about it here, and what I'd like you to look at, I don't know if you can get in on that one, Andrew, is the ramp. Now there's a ramp there of slightly darker purple lines, and those ramps will reflect ultraviolet light, and that ultraviolet light, of course, will attract the pollinators for these little flowers. You'll find, I think, that they don't smell at all. It'll be the color that attracts the insect pollinators. There's a spider. You see the spider? He's just next to the flower that I was playing with. Next to this, there. You see him? There he is. You got him. Doesn't look like a jumping spider, but he's a highly competent jumper. Stunning. I suspect a crab spider of some sort. The crab spiders are renowned for sitting on plants like this, disguising themselves as pieces of the plant, and then they grab the insects that come and pollinate the flowers. So this is why you will find so many coloured plants don't smell of anything, because their whole sort of raison d'etre, if you like, is to attract insects with the colour. Right, Jamie is back at Sydney's dam. She's with another large game species. We had a good time with the spider. Back to Jamie. We'll see you later.
Okay, so not the pack of wild dogs that I promised you, but about 300 buffalo at Sydney's dam coming across to drink. The wild dogs are here, but they're on the far side of the dam with Andrew and Craig. He says that they are the Investic pack. So we'll have a look at a herd of buffalo instead. Though we definitely had a clash between two packs this morning, and apparently Sydney's dam is the place to be. Look at this, what an awesome African scene. How stunning is this? Buffalo everywhere we look. And as I said, a mixed breeding herd, probably about 300 animals, roughly, would be my guess. You're welcome to take screenshots and double check my counting. And there in front of that vehicle, those little dots in the shade, I don't know if you can see them, it's right in front of where that vehicle is pointing. Those are the wild dogs hiding in the shade. There you go, you can see ears popping up, heads lifting. So the wild dogs are there, I promise, just a little bit out of where we can actually go. The buffalo quenching their thirst and then milling around, as buffalo tend to do, before somebody makes a decision as to which way they would like to go. But in a drought-stricken country such as this, scenes like this are really quite special to enjoy. And I've put Bryan in a terribly awkward position just to, if we could see both the wild dogs and the buffalo. I'm happy to just sit and enjoy the scenery for a moment. Some buffalo are starting to wander off. And of course, a herd of buffalo is also always an exciting thing, because you never know when the lions might decide to pop out, especially if they've been trailing a buffalo herd overnight. And it bodes well for promises of a sunset safari this afternoon. Oh, what an awesome scene. Actually something surprisingly peaceful about watching a herd of buffalo like this from afar. You don't get the noise and the dust and the sort of dairy farm type smell. And you really just get to enjoy a scene that is so typically African. Of course, as water-dependent animals, they're moving to and from between the big dams, making the most of any opportunity they have to drink at this time. Our Sydney's dam has recently just reopened in terms of they were conducting hippo capture around this area, and that sort of brings us to Donna's question. Here we can see a hippo, one of the remaining hippo, and in fact probably, quite likely, one of the hippos that we've seen wander onto Djuma. Donna, you were watching all the way in Canada. You said you're loving our live safaris and that you're wondering how many hippo we have. Now, the reason they were conducting hippo capture was to transport them to other areas that are less afflicted by the drought. Not that there's that many within South Africa, unfortunately, at the moment. However, they needed to remove them from the dams because, as we've spoken about before, this area would not naturally have had any big water systems like these dams before the arrival of human beings, and they're basically all of the dams here are constructed or man-made. What that basically means is the presence of the dams brought species that wouldn't necessarily always have been here, which included probably about 100 hippo within the northern Sabi Sands, so not just Djuma but the entire area. And that's fine until the drought struck, at which point the hippo had nowhere to go, no dams to seek refuge in. Even Sydney's dam, which is where we are now, has shrunk considerably. You can see where it should have extended all the way up where the buffalo are walking. It should have been underwater. They should have been underwater at this time of year. And that's why they decided, as part of a management strategy, to capture, I believe it was 100 hippo was their goal, and remove them, as far as I know, to the Waterberg region of South Africa. So Donna, in terms of how many hippo we have remaining in the area, I couldn't give you a very accurate estimate. I would guess at maybe about 10 to 15 throughout the entire northern Sabi Sands. Very different to the southern areas, which have their own river systems, the Sand River system.
Okay.
And I'm really just enjoying the scenery, and I have to confess, sort of slowly winding down after what has been a bit of a wild ride this morning. It's been quite phenomenal.
Andrew coming. Survival.
Now at the moment, our wild dog pack has hidden themselves very far away, and Keith was wondering, why is it that the wild dogs lie spaced apart and not on top of each other in the same way lions might do, for example? And Keith, it just depends on their mood at the time and what's been happening. Because they are incredibly sociable creatures, often you find them lying together right on top of each other. The physical contact between wild dog members is probably, and I mean this is in my opinion, is probably even more important than it is between lion pride members, which is really saying something, because as both social predators, they are tightly bonded. The difference, of course, with lions is that they are often, particularly around meals, dominated by aggression, whereas wild dogs have this unique pack dynamic that allows them to be ruled purely by, how would I describe it, by subservience and altruism. So they quite happily, once they've eaten a meal, even if they're starving, if one of the lower members of the pack or one of the pups comes up to them and begs sufficiently well, he will then regurgitate the food and allow the pups or the older or infirm member of the pack to eat what they leave behind, what they bring up, and allow them to essentially sacrificing their meal. And as a result, those social bonds that are practiced from puppyhood, they will lie right on top of each other. On a very warm day like today, they might just decide to space out a little bit, just as our buffalo are slowly doing. Awesome view of a typical African scene. Buffalo in the front and wild dogs behind. I believe that James would like to say his final few words to you at the end of his sunrise safari. So let's hear what he has to say, and I'll be back with you a little bit later.
This is the only example of the spider that I have seen the whole year, a golden orb web spider. Normally this time of the year you cannot walk between two bushes without being covered in the sticky golden threads from the golden orb web spider. Now, while for the arachnophobes around there it might look like an utterly terrifying creature, they are completely harmless to human beings. They are, well, I mean, they look like they're poisonous because of their colors. I'm not sure if they are to predators. Certainly birds don't seem to eat them very much, but they are magnificent. Isn't that the most stunning spider? And that's a particularly small female. You get much, much bigger ones than that. Now, Andrew, if you come down towards the nest here, or the web, this is her web, and it does have a slightly golden sheen, which you may or may not be able to see there. And it's very, very powerful, and we're standing so close to it, of course, because we're hoping that the flies around us will be caught up in the web and devoured by the spider, because we have no affection for the flies. Here is one there that has been caught, 2 of them. You nasty little blighters, you're now going to feel the wrath of the golden orb web spider. There's one other creature that lives here. It's this thing here, Andrew. It'll fall on my hand now. There. There's a mercury drop spider, a kleptoparasite, like a politician. He doesn't make any of his own kills. He just sits on the web here and steals whatever the golden orb web spider does. Right, now we're going to leave you in the company of Jamie for the rest of the drive. I'm just going to follow up on an alarm calling squirrel there, but if we don't find anything, this will be the last you see of me until this afternoon. So thank you for watching, and thank you for your questions and comments during the course of the walk. Thank you, Andrew, for your efforts. Physical strain that it's been on you, I know. Well done. And thanks, of course, to the final control, Jerry and Kirsty. We will see you this afternoon. Back to Jamie. Bye-bye.
And a big thank you to the ever wonderful Mr. James Hendry, as well as to Andrew, for all of their work in bringing the joy of some of the little things out in the bush, stuff that sometimes gets passed over or forgotten, but is nonetheless incredibly valuable as part of the overall bush dynamic and bush experience, giving you a complete and rounded picture of a real-life safari. We've just got the stragglers left. Most of the herd is slowly wandering off to the east. Now, a couple of them standing looking across the dam wall, and they've all moved straight towards where the wild dogs were. And Liz Larper, you were saying you're surprised that they haven't caused a ruckus with the wild dogs, and I have to be honest, Liz, I'm not entirely sure that's off the cards just yet. They seem to be making their way in that direction, and as we know, and as Liz Larper knows, as well as many of our regular viewers, for some reason poor old wild dogs get targeted by all of the other animals out here. They get chased by waterbuck and zebra and wildebeest, elephants, and buffalo would be included in that list. I don't know whether it's because the wild dogs have already dashed off. I can't obviously see anymore with all of those buffalo in the way. I think they have. I think they've moved off in towards the Manuleti, maybe to find a little bit more shade, and that will most likely be their activity done for the day, with temperatures starting to top over 30 degrees, even at 8 o'clock in the morning. Hello, my goodness. We have to backtrack, since we mentioned the smell of the wild dogs a while back when we first had that sighting. And poor Christopher, I hope that you're still watching, Christopher. You asked a question about what animals you can track by smell, and I got so distracted that I forgot to answer your question, and my apologies. Christopher, one of the easiest things to track by smell is a kill, especially if you can determine which way the wind is blowing and use that in combination with your sense of hearing, listening for something feeding on it. That is probably one of the clearest examples. I have found wild dogs before, but it wasn't just smell. It was because the smell alerted me to their presence, and then I stopped to have a look. There's a waterbuck having a quick drink as well. Or 2 waterbucks, sorry. Waterbuck? Not necessarily something that you would attempt to track by smell, but you probably could. They definitely have a distinctive scent. And then elephants in must, also the areas that they've walked through tend to retain that scent. The important thing to remember is that tracking is not just a sight experience. It involves all kinds of senses. So between your eyes, listening, smelling, everything is involved in tracking every single animal. Not just a sort of once-off experience. You've got to concentrate on the bush around you and the signs that it's giving. And sometimes it might be a combination of a footprint plus a smell. Sometimes you might walk past a bush where a leopard is scent marked and get the smell of its urine, which apparently smells to everybody else like buttered popcorn. I have to confess it doesn't smell like that to me. It smells like leopard urine, but maybe there is something faulty in my hardwiring. I've never been able to experience and I'm the only person I know who doesn't smell it like that. But what a wonderful way to finish off our sunrise safari. A herd of buffalo, hopefully they decide to move down towards Djuma, maybe even bring the lions with them. Some soaring vultures. The Cape turtle doves calling away. And sorry, I don't actually think they are vultures. It's quite far away, but they could well be birds of prey that are following the buffalo herd to catch any insects that might be stirred up by them. Come on, birds, give me a good view. There are vultures soaring around. And I don't really think a morning gets any better than this. The sun shining, but with clouds rolling in to keep the heat at bay. Wild dogs, leopards, elephants all over the place. And, of course, a promise for an exciting sunset safari. Both packs of wild dogs have not moved terribly far away, so they could well make another entrance in time for the sunset safari, which this afternoon will be James and Stef as a special treat for you all. But yes, excitement when we said this morning that we didn't know where this day was going to go. I certainly didn't expect it to go the way that it did. As always, a thank you to you, the viewers, for your wonderful interaction, your questions, your comments. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did, as well as always thank you to our wonderful cameraman, in this case, Bryan, who did some superb work this morning, not just his camera work, but also staying on, dodging thorn trees, all kinds of things that we put our cameraman through for sightings like that. I hope you really, really enjoyed it. Thank you to the lovely ladies, Kirsty and Jerry in Final Control, directing and picking things. Have a wonderful day, and we'll catch up with you for the Sunset Safari. Cheers, guys.